So, hello everyone. Welcome back to Voice Global. And today I have the honor to have yet another chat with someone I admire a lot, Arlen Hamilton from Backstage Capital. Thanks for joining me today, Arlen.
Thank you for letting me be part of this.
So, let's talk a little bit about your story. Let's jump right into it. I don't think there's any other time more perfect than now to talk about what you've been through, to talk about the American dream, if you will, and what you made possible. So, for those of you who have not yet read your book, which by the way I totally highly recommend it, just run. Do not walk, run and get the copy. It's about damn time. And you will be sure to have to read it once, twice. I read it 3 times.
Thank you.
So it's truly inspirational. So you started that book with a story about you. Back in 2015, you were on Footstems. You were basically at a point where you had a dream. You had an old laptop and a dream of breaking into the venture capital world. Walk us through your journey and how you got from there to where you are right now, started Backstage Capital and more.
Yeah, thank you. I think the dream was more so to get the resources and the capital into the hands of underrepresented founders than to be part of some club that a few people get to be in. But in the way that I found that I could do that is to break into something that wasn't really designed for me or very welcoming to me, but I was happy to just make my own way and write my own invitation. And so I would have been in my mid 30s. I'm turning 40 this year. I was in my mid 30s just a few years ago. It wasn't even 5 years ago yet. And as you described it, I've had housing insecurity for most of my life. And at this point, I had just run out of all options that I could see that were legal and that had any dignity to them, in my view. And so I said, okay, well, it's me. I can control what I do and where I am, and I don't have any money to get a hotel or get an apartment or any of that. There are no more couches to sleep on. There's no family that has the means to help right now because they're figuring it out on their own too. So I'll stay at the airport where I know that there's shelter and there's access to food if I can find the money to buy it. Went from that to let me also not stop what I'm doing though, which is talking to founders, which is reaching out to investors, which is pounding the pavement, which is writing and researching and doing everything I possibly can during the daylight hours. And finally, someone understood maybe not what I was going to be able to do, but that I would do something of note. And it was a woman angel investor in Silicon Valley. And I shout her name out every chance I get for 5 years almost, Susan Kimberlin. And she said, here's your first 25,000 to invest in someone else. And here's your first 25,000 to invest in yourself for this very specific thing. And I took that, I turned that into more than $10 million and into more than 130 investments in those last 4.5 years.
That story always brings so much emotions to me because we live and breathe it, right? As women in startup world, the stats are so grim. It's beyond comprehension. And then as founders, women, minorities, people of color, it's even worse. I mean, it's but as you stated though, we have two different ways of looking at it, right? One is people blame it as a pipeline problem or whatever other excuses that you can come up with. But someone look at it as an opportunity to invest because there are so many brilliant people out there, so many great ideas, so many dreams that we can enable things to happen. So let's take a look at the 130 that you were talking about, the portfolio company. last time we talked, you had mentioned they're very, very broad. They are literally from one extreme to the other, go and encompass a lot of different industries. How did all of that came about? How do you find them? How do they find you?
Well, it evolved over time and changed. It not only evolved but changed over time. So it wasn't all yeah. So it started out with me just getting in touch with different founders. If I found them online, if I noticed something about them, if they were just sort of a blip on the radar, but I liked what they were doing. So I found many of the companies, including PartPick, who was not in our portfolio because I could not afford to invest in them before they were acquired. But Jewel Burks had a hardware company. Actually, it was a SaaS company that was sort of being encumbered by the thought that it was a hardware company, and they couldn't find investors. Then they could. I did what I could to help without any money. Then they could find some investors. And then they were kind of plugging away, and all of a sudden, Amazon came knocking and picked them up. And Jewel had to make a decision between raising more money and going in that rat race again, or being acquired, in my opinion, prematurely, but also being acquired and being the first Black woman to be acquired by Amazon. And it's just so many things to consider at once. I found her. I stumbled upon her online and kept up with her. And so then when people started knowing about me, they would tell each other. They would tell each other, tell other founders that I would be helpful to them. So that was bringing a lot of deal flow. Early days, 2015 and 16, I had a Tuesdays with Arlen. I would put up like a Calendly link or whatever link. I think it was Calendly at the time, yeah, which is run by a Black man. I don't know many people know that. But I put up a Calendly link, and I would say anybody from anywhere can reach out to me on, these 8 hours on a Tuesday for 30 minutes and tell me about your company. And some of the companies came from that. And then when people really start to know there's press and there's this, then it was like, oh, I'm getting just hundreds of messages about this all the time. That turned into hundreds, turned into thousands. I then had more people on the team, and we put in things in place. So we put in an application process as if we were an accelerator or something to that effect. So that was a major part of it. Of course, we have almost 100 LPs in our funds because they were like separate funds, small funds, and different angel amounts. And so our LPs send us quality deal flow. But most of it is the founders finding us because they like what they see reflected back to them when they look at our website, when they look at other founders. Our founders, or the founders that we've invested in, they go out and a lot of them say what they like about Backstage and what they think, of what we do. And that word of mouth is just invaluable. So I even had someone today who was thinking about investing in the fund, and I said, hey, you can reach out to whomever you'd like, anybody on our website, anybody that is invested in us, anyone. I will give you all the access you need, and you can go behind my back and do it, because I don't have I've done this with the sort of integrity that I feel very comfortable with, no matter how things have gone along the way. And so part of that is in the fact that from day one, we were allowing those cold introductions as much as possible.
You're like a big family, right? So, I remember last time we talked about it. If we go to your website, it's just a big family of people, amazing, happy founders' faces that you can see, real people that you can relate to, not like, some distant office somewhere far away, right? And that's always one of the problems that, we see in the VC world is, someone knows someone, some kind of intro, and there's almost like a 0% chance of reaching anyone unless you're super connected or went to the same school in some sort of way. Which leads me to your new book, right behind you. It's About Damn Time. I love the title, and I like it because it's not just about retelling the story of we need more diversity, the stats are bad. It's more than that. It's hopeful, it's inspirational, it's about people, it's something that we need. I would say more so now than ever before. Can you give the folks who are on here a sneak preview of what it is about? What drove you to write that book to begin with, and what are some of the key messages you would like for them to leave with?
Yeah, I can't ignore the fact that, I don't know if you probably can't because of my microphone hear this, but there are helicopters circling around right now, just circling around. I'm in Los Angeles, in Hollywood. They've boarded up all of the buildings around me. They've given us messages that, there are going to be protests for sure. There were protests yesterday. There may be even more escalated today. And we're prepared for that, and we support it 100%. And today someone reached out to me and said, I read your book. It's a Black woman. She said, I read your book today or this week. And in the midst of all of this, it helped to remind me that as a Black woman, I have value. And when I wrote it, I could only dream that that would be the case in a normal world, whatever normal is, but in an okay, not COVID, not this world that we're in right now with all of the protesting and the protesting is not the problem. The killing, the murdering that's happening to Black bodies, to brown bodies, to female bodies, to trans bodies that are discarded. It's just taken on an entirely new meaning and feeling and impact, even more so than it already was, which was already getting so much great feedback. This book is about, of course, parts of it about my journey. You hear someone 5 years ago was sleeping at the airport, you think Pursuit of Happiness, you want to see who's playing me in the movie, and it's all of that. But underneath all of that is really a couple of things. It's about the big structural change that can happen, that I believe can happen, and that I'm not going to sit around and wait and hope that someone comes and saves us. I think that we can galvanize and make that happen, which is kind of reflected in what's going on right now. I have always said that my success is my activism. And then individually, it's about the individual person, like that woman who reached out to me today, who says, you're seeing me in this. I'm feeling what you're saying, and I'm seeing myself reflected back in this. That individual thing, there was a white man, a white gay man who today, I have all of this, the receipts, who today as well sent me a text, a friend of mine, who's a newer friend, and he's in Kentucky, white man, Kentucky. He said he was listening to the audio version of it, and he had to stop. We were all running, and he had to stop and cry. He had to stop and pull over from his run and just weep for us and with himself and all of that. Not because of he was sad, but because of the hope. He specifically said, because of the last section of the book where I talk about what I believe can happen and why I do what I do and why we do what we do, why you do what you do. That brought him so much hope that he had to weep about it in this world. And so you're going to get, you're going to learn more than you want to about venture capital. It's not heavy on venture. The introduction really is the heaviest part on venture. It gives some stats, it lays the foundation, but the rest of it is some anecdotes that may be surprising, that are just about my life. I worked in music for a while. I'm back behind the scenes. I have some cute stories there, but then I try to apply it to how it can help individual entrepreneurs and people that working within corporations. And then I get really personal on a couple of occasions where it's, I talk about going sober, and I talk about how important that was to my marriage and all sorts of things. And ultimately, I'm hoping that it galvanizes us and it empowers us, and that the reader, no matter who they are, walks away understanding how at least I believe that we are all equal, and that we each have a part to play in this and getting better, and that we can get better. If I didn't believe we could get better, all of this wouldn't matter, and it would be for naught. And I have to believe that we can be better and get better.
Right. And I hope we can do better. We need to do better. We have to do better. And it everything that we've been going through, especially the last 3 months with COVID, with the unemployment, with everything, with seeing pictures, visuals of people lining up for food for the first time, with figures after figures of how many people are living without healthcare, without access to digital, without having to choose between whether or not I'm going to go out to work so I can put food on the table versus what can I do to keep myself and keep my family healthy? What can I do so that I don't get kicked out and evicted from my apartment? What can I do so I can voice my opinion and not being hunted down like dogs? There's no one quick fix. I think there are a lot of challenges with our country, but I want to spend the next few minutes talk about, in your opinion, what are some of the things that we could have done, that we should do, that we have to do so that we can all become better allies of each other, so that we can alleviate some of the challenges that we see.
Yeah, and I'm well, thank you for sharing all of that. And I'll give things that are kind of basic things, because I feel like you said that I make people feel a little less lonely. I think maybe what one of my talents is just like being like talking to people across the board that can making things easier to understand and being a bridge to each other. And so there are so many people that if you're interested in learning more, there's so many people to reach out to, including the person behind me over here, Minda Harts, and the memo and your work and all of that are going to have some very, this is 1, 2, 3, this is my 8-point plan. And this is for this. For me, I have been observing allies and those who wish to be over the past few days with everything that's been going on. And I've also been spoken to by many people, both praising the work, and others saying, including other Black people saying, you're giving too much credit to white people, or you're giving too much credit to that particular white person that you shouted out or whatever. I listen to everybody. And I take everybody has that space in my view. They have that space to say what they think. I'm going to give my opinion back, or I'm going to shut my mouth when it's appropriate. When it comes to allies, what I've observed is that they feel, some of them, or most of them, seem to feel like, I can't get this right. I can't say the right thing. I can't do the right thing. I can't tweet the right thing, or black out or not black out, or this or that on the, black.
There's quite a bit of that. Yes.
Yeah. There's a lot of that. And and what I have found though, is that the ones, like I'm talking mostly white women, are the ones that are stepping up, because they should be, because they're the ones who kind of got us in this mess to begin with. They're stepping up and they're saying, so some of them are saying, I can't get this right. People are yelling at me. I keep getting the wrong message, but they keep going and they keep trying and they keep going and they keep trying. And they understand that their discomfort for the day or for the week or for the past 3-6 months is nothing in comparison to their friends who have been dealing with this type of thing for their whole lives, or even for the past 400 years that we've been in this country like this. And so they just keep going, and they don't use that discomfort, and even people being wrong, like in my opinion, just being rude and wrong to them. They don't use that as an excuse to, well, I tried and you were being too mean, so I'm going to go back home and shut up. Those allies who stay the course and take it, and who are out in the streets fighting and protecting and using their bodies to protect, using their voices to project, all of that, to me, those are examples of you doing it the best way you can, and right or wrong, the best way you can. And they should be, in my opinion, again, lauded and held up. Because what do we want if not that? I think when I hear from Black people who have usually they have something to say about me, it's, I'm doing it wrong, I'm being Black wrong. Okay. And I'll listen to them. So, but what I want to understand is if I can't give credit where it's due to an ally who figures it out or at least tries earnestly, what do you want them to do? You don't want them to be silent. You don't want them to keep going about their day. So they try. Then they give them, I don't throw a parade for them or hand them cookies, but I say, yep, that's right. And then that's attacked. What do you want them to do? What do we want them to do? We want them to use their power, their prominence, their influence, their money to make things better for us. And if we can't even acknowledge that they're getting better on the communication of it, how do we expect them to have any incentive to do anything more? That's just, again, my opinion. I know that can be argued left, right, and the other. And usually I can argue anything that I say with certainty. I usually have already argued it from many sides myself so that I understand what I really believe before I say something out loud. So it can be argued that what I'm saying is a little, is a little Pollyanna and is a little idealistic, but that's where I want to be. That's the channel I want to be on. I want this to be for something. I want it to be so that when the dust clears, we're working together, we're living together, it's working out. The earth that we're on and these bodies, we're in some sort of harmony. Sue me if that doesn't work, because I don't want to live in a world where there's only one master race. Right now, there seems to be people who think there is. I don't want to live in a world where any race is considered a master race. I want it to be equal. So I think going back to your initial question about what we can do, I think we can listen to each other, and we can also kind of be better to each other. Give a little bit more to each other, and I'll take any of the hits that brings on. But that's where I think we start, no matter who we are. I'm going to be the first person to cuss someone out, yell at you online, put you on blast online. You know this, right?
I've seen that.
Yeah, I will put you on blast if you're acting a fool. But if you are earnestly trying to be better, I have had to be better so many times, and I hope to rise to that occasion each time. And you're trying to rise to the occasion, I can definitely give you the grace of saying that you've tried. And that is so fundamental, and it's so soft skilly. It's
empowering, right?
But yeah, and it's like, where are we going toward? What are we marching towards? I want to march towards something. And I think that's where you start the march, with the destination in mind.
Absolutely. We have something that we need to live for. And you truly do have a very powerful and inspirational voice. I think anyone who had the chance to even talk to you or even follow you on social, we can see that your personality jumps out. Even before the first time I had the chance to talk to you. This is the moment for people to rise up and speak up. This is the moment for people to inspire. This is the moment for us to act and to do something. Yeah. Can't understate that. And that was something, and I remember I told you that before, but something that sticks with me with your book, with what you say, with everything that you had said in the book, is once we get there, once we make it there, don't forget to let someone shorter stand in front of you. It's important. And the fact that you were stressing about listening and communicating and trying, and it is so important. I think we miss part of that. We use this as a microphone, as a platform to keep saying whatever it is that we want to say without taking anything in. And before we wrap up, looking forward, what are your plans? Knowing that all the plans probably keep changing.
But they change daily. They change daily. My plan is to just double down, triple down, whatever you want to say, quadruple down on everything that I'm doing. And doing so, knowing that there's really not going to be a perfect way to do it, and that it's probably going to take on different forms. So I'm investing in underrepresented founders so I can put myself out of business, so that we're underrepresented no more, right? I'm also catalyzing students, Black students, and with my scholarship program. We have the first scholarship. My mother and I have the first scholarship for a Black student at Oxford. We have a scholarship for a psychology student who is a woman at HBCU Dillard, where my mom went to school in New Orleans. And we're putting a Black student through a pilot program to become a pilot in Greece. And we will continue to do the things that we can do within our means, and make our means bigger. You know what I mean? Expand our means so we can do more. That's what I'm on about. With the book, I think the book is going to be a major way that happens. This is a summit about voices and voice both. So I would encourage you to go to the book, download the book as an audio, because I read the audio. And with me, I only listen to books on audio these days. I'll buy them and have them on display, but I'll buy them on the audio to really read it. And so a lot of people are saying that it helps them get empowered even more to hear it, right? So I would encourage that. And I think that I have this feeling, I know it's like instinct, and I don't know where it's coming from exactly, but I have this instinct that this book, and maybe we could quote me in a year or something, I feel like this book is going to be the reason that I have the means to do the things that I want to do. I feel like it's going to outperform in sales. And that capital that I get from that will empower me to, instead of going and asking white men, can you please invest in our fund? Can you please pay for this or donate to this? It will empower me to do so. And I think I can empower others, and then they will go on and go on. So you're going to just see millionaires and powerful people of influence, etc., who are built in the home of Backstage, and who are nourished at the Backstage cabin, or however you want to put it. That's what you're going to see. I also want to shout out to Needle, Nedl, Needle. In our portfolio, they capture voice for podcasting instantly, but also you can search any word that's in the Needle platform. So if you wanted to record something and have people be able to find you later, whether it's music or spoken word, you would use the Needle platform through their work with Google and do that. And it's interesting. It's one of our portfolio companies. So I definitely wanted to give them space there.
Wow, that's cool. I did not know that. See, I learned something new again with you. So thank you so much for joining us today. I look forward to seeing the next stage. I look forward to seeing the next headline that you're going to write. And I look forward to the next round of millionaires that's going to grow from the back of Backstage. And thank you so much, Ellen.
Thank you. I appreciate you.